Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is the Surge Effect, and this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. In today's episode of the Surge Effect, we're going to be talking about Mark Carney again. You know why? Because he called an election the other day, and we only have 30 days to try to figure out who this guy is and what he's all about. I've already dropped a couple of podcasts recently in regards to Mark Carney. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of stuff on social media. If you haven't, follow me on Twitter. You can follow my Twitter account and see a lot of stuff that I've been posting personally, but I post a lot of other stuff that people post as well. Anyway, before we get started, I always like to talk about two of my sponsors. Number one is Love My Legs, Owen Sound, Grey Bruce. Click on the link below, head on over to their Facebook page, and check out all the lovely leggings that they have to offer. They have an array of colors. Check them out today. Number two, T-shirts, she-shirts plus. Same thing. Click on the link below, head on over to their website or their Facebook page, and check out all the clothing they have to offer. They're more than just a T-shirt company, and that plus stands for laser. They have all kinds of laser products as well. And I also like to throw in, of course, Amazon links. Check out what they have for their best deals and all, deals of the day and all that stuff. Fly on over to Amazon and check them out. So today, let's talk about Mark Carney. Here we go. All right, so Mark Carney. First off, he was basically voted in by, there was 260,000 people that actually registered for Liberals. This is where people get things a little winky. And they disallowed about 130,000 ballparkish, and that left them with like 140 or 150,000 people. But out of that 140, 150,000 people, only 86% of that voted for this guy. And keep in mind, there's 41 million people in Canada. So basically, this is just a meme popped up here by Canada Proud. Does anyone find it insane that Mark Carney, a man who holds 3 citizenships and has been living outside of Canada for the past decade, can just walk into our country, become the prime minister based on the votes of 131,000 people of questionable citizenship, and start making decisions which impact everyone in the country? Think about that. Let that kind of sink in. This guy, who has basically been out of Canada for the last decade, working in England, the Bank of England, did a poor shit job at that. He is also on the board of the World Economic Forum. A lot of people don't know about the World Economic Forum. I've been talking about the World Economic Forum now for a couple of years in a lot of my past podcasts. Klaus Schwab founded it in 1972. He brags about having Trudeau and half his cabinet basically in his pocket in the WEF, in the World Economic Forum. These people are globalists. They do things for them that they think is good for you, but it's not good for you. And not only that, you didn't vote for these people, right? You didn't vote for these people, and they're being taken over by the World Economic Forum because they're going into the little group, and they are making decisions for other people. And there's Mark Carney there, like I said, picture of him there in the World Economic Forum. And of course, anyone that doesn't know this, Trudeau and him are buddies. They've been buddies for years. And Chrystia Freeland, he is actually the godfather to Chrystia Freeland's children. And if people don't believe that, you can do a quick search and figure that out really, really fast. And that's how easy that is. I'm going to show you a little couple of videos here along the way like I normally do. They call him Carbon Tax Carney. Well, here he is. He's the ultimate liberal insider.
I've been talking with Mark Carney for years now.
Of course he has.
Mark is a friend of a personal friend.
Of course he is.
Of very long standing. He's
Godfather
someone who
to
I
children.
talk to often. It's really great for our team to have Mark providing advice to the Liberal Party so that we can support Canada and Canadians.
And you're running as an outsider.
Mark Carney joins Liberals.
I am an outsider.
He says he is an outsider. Mark Carney.
I support the government. I think the government's on the right track. I support the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is going to be the leader of the Liberal Party in the next election, and I support him.
Just like Justin, I think that Mark Carney was basically Justin's handler, and Justin did a shit job, so they had to get rid of Justin and pull in the handler. And here is what Mark Carney said in his book. He actually wrote a book. It's on Amazon. It's called Values, Business Values. Anyway, in his book, Values, Building a Better World for All, Mark Carney, former governor both of the Bank of Canada and of the Bank of England, claims the Western society is morally rotten and that it has been corrupted by capitalism, which has been brought about a climate emergency that threatens life on Earth. This, he claims, requires rigid controls on personal freedoms, industry, and corporate funding. Now, those aren't my words. Those are Mark Carney's words, right out of his book. These are little things, like I said, that you will find out about Mark Carney as we go along. So there I said about the WEF, right there. World Economic Forum. He's a member of the Board of Trustees, Mark Carney. Oh, who's that next to him? That's Chrystia Freeland. She's also a member of the Board of Trustees. Oh, who's the other one? Oh, that's right. Justin Trudeau, graduate of the Young Global Leaders Program. And of course, oh, who's that to the other side? Oh, that's right. That's Jagmeet Singh. He's a graduate of the Young Global Leader Program as well. Just imagine all these people in the WEF working for other people other than us, the people that supposedly voted them in, right? So here's what a former British Prime Minister said on the Glenn Beck show the other day. You may or may not have caught this. It's a couple minutes long, but it's well worth the listen and watch. Here we go.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually created by him. He backed Labour in the election and Rachel Reeves's policies, which are leading the country to bankruptcy. So why on earth the Liberal Party of Canada has selected this man, I have no idea. And I think it is illegitimate that this guy has never been elected as a member of Parliament in Canada. I'm utterly puzzled, and the Canadians. I'm not going to tell the Canadians how to vote. Obviously, I want the Conservatives to be elected in Canada, but I think it's Justin Trudeau has pursued a lot of the same policies that Europe has been pursuing, and America has raced ahead of us. Back at the turn of the millennium, the average Brit was catching up with the average American in terms of income per head.
Wow.
We are now $34,000 a year behind. We are poorer than Mississippi, which is the poorest American state. And the same is true. The same is true of France and Germany, and to some extent of Canada, because they pursued all of these woke policies. High taxes, high spending, not using their natural resources. And Justin Trudeau was the architect of that. And of course, Mark Carney has been the advocate of these policies. So I don't know what is going on in Canada, but in the same way as I think people in Britain need to wake up to what the real threat to our country is, I think they need to wake up in Canada.
Exactly. I always say that on my Twitter feeds as well, and my Facebook posts is you got to wake up. People need to wake up. And I always say, if you don't know the players, you're going to get played. It's just that simple. So what do you think that somebody right here, like for instance, right here, this is the period that Mark Carney was the top guy at Brookfield. His investments show how much he believes in our country, this country that supposedly right now he's the prime minister, right? Right there, assets in Canada. How much as a percentage? How much money he's put into Canada? Oh, that's minus 3.94%. In the States, it's 22.55. In England, it's 32.90. Brazil's 32.89. And down in Germany's 104.05%. These are percentage in billions of dollars in 21, 22, and 23. And this guy has invested in other countries other than Canada. That's like, Pete Rose betting against his own team kind of thing in the World Series. this guy's betting against his own team, right? Anyone that's Canadian knows you're Canadian through and through. You're Canadian. You can't put up with this. Look at this nonsense here. This is the growth based on gross domestic product per capita in the last 10 years. Look at Canada. Look at Canada, 0.5%. The bottom line is the States. It goes up to 20.7%. It goes right off the chart at the bottom. This is sad. This is 10 years of this. Canada, Germany, Finland, Norway, UK, Australia, France, Japan, Sweden, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, Denmark, and the United States. Canada is dead dog last on that one. And Mark Carney just did this the other day. He revealed that Carney wants to spend $100 billion, and he wants to give it to $100 million. Sorry, he wants to give it to the Palestinians, right over in the Gaza. Hamas wants to give it to them. How can this guy that was basically voted in by people that voted to liberal, that they're a liberal in the Liberal Party, 130,000 people vote this guy in, and he's making all these wheeling dealing jobs with people. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? So here's Mark Carney. He believes in capping energy production. I say to unleash it. Oh, that's right. So does Pierre Poilievre. He also believes in Bill C-69, which is basically no pipelines. Meanwhile, his company Brookfield, they're all about pipelines. That's what one of the main things his company makes money on. And Pierre Poilievre says build pipelines. He wants to put bans on tankers and stuff. And of course, Pierre Poilievre wants to ship more oil and gas across the way and make Canada wealthy. And of course, carbon tax Carney, he likes the carbon tax, and Pierre Poilievre wants to axe the tax. Because carbon tax, if you do the quick math, I just told someone this the other day, if you do the quick math, we have 3 trillion trees in Canada. Each tree can absorb 45 pounds of CO2. All right? Do the math. Do it yourself. And Canada has more bogs, marshes, and swamps than any other landmass in the world. I know you find that hard to believe, but you can check it out. You can Google it yourself. So with all that greenery as well absorbing CO2 and creating oxygen in return, I've always said I think the rest of the globe owes us a rebate. We shouldn't be paying carbon tax. It's a scam. It's a money grab. So do the math. Like I said, check it out yourself. 3 trillion trees, 45 pounds a tree. Okay, so here's a little clip on Mark Carney being asked some questions. Listen to this.
You appeared to suggest yesterday that you're open to moving away from the federal government's emissions cap, while your environment minister said that the cap will remain in place. Can you explain what your approach will be to the emissions cap, and specifically how it will be determined and what will inform your decision?
Well, there's 2 things, or there's several things here. First, I'm a pragmatist, so I'm focused on, as the government is, on getting emissions down from the production and transportation of conventional oil and gas.
So he's just doing a little song and dance, right? But basically what he said one day, he said that, I'll show you the clip here, or the actual picture. So one day he says, when he was in Edmonton, March 20th, Carney says he opposes the preset caps. He opposes them. And then when he was back in Ottawa, literally a day later, Carney keeps emission caps on oil and gas. So 24 hours later, he changes his mind. It's kind of crazy, right? But typical, right? That's what we're going to have to deal with if this guy gets into office. Okay. So I'm just going to show you this little clip here. This he said the carbon tax is too low, says Carney.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
Everyone should try to have a price on carbon.
We need to use effectively a shadow carbon price.
And there he is. At the end there, that last clip, he was a photo op of him saying he's getting rid of the carbon tax. This is a guy that wrote a book about it, about net zero. This is a guy that his whole life has been about, carbon tax and Green Deal and all this other stuff. And his whole life has been like that. And all of a sudden now he's just going to change it and say, no, we're good. We'll take it all off. The second he got into office, if he was to get into office, he would flip that around and all of us would be paying. If you don't think that would happen, then you're not paying attention and you're not really living in the same world that the rest of us are living in. So here's another one here of Carney trying to answer a question because he's a slippery slope about money that he spent of our tax dollars when he went over to Europe. Check this out.
Recently,
Sorry about the microphone.
yeah, no problem. I'm a pretty tall guy. You have not been elected in a federal election yet, and you recently flew to Europe on government wide-body jet at the expense of at least $500,000. So the question I have for you today, and maybe I'll say this before I ask the question, these people around you all paid for that flight, and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. Look, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to allude to the question that was asked previously by Mr. Staples from the Journal, and the situation that we're in as a country, which is we are in an economic crisis that's brought on, sorry, I'm going to answer the question, brought on by the tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges...
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor at the time.
I think you would find...
These people did not create that problem.
I certainly... hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. The U.S. government has decided to put tariffs on all of its closest allies. All of its closest allies.
See, he's trying to deflect and blame it on Trump. I like to tell people this because tariffs have been around for hundreds of years, all right? Back and forth, tariffs. That's the way this system works. The problem is we've had a government in place for 10 years. That's who's been in charge of this country. They're the managers of this country. Therefore, they're responsible. Don't deflect. Don't walk away from your responsibility. Trudeau is responsible for what's happened to our country in the last almost 10 years. And this guy was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. So do not be fooled by this.
I wouldn't for a moment suggest that anyone in Canada is the cause of this. What our responsibility is to take action to react to a different world that we're in. And part of the way we do that is we build out new partnerships, new opportunities, including opportunities. And I'm going to give you a specific one, and then I don't know if you have one more follow-up, but I'll give you a specific example. It goes to my previous answer.
He goes on for 3 or 4 minutes and never ever did answer this guy's question. The guy asked, are you going to pay back the money that you spent going overseas? Typical liberal, wanting to spend our money and gets nothing accomplished. Ridiculous. This is what Jordan Peterson had to say about Mark Carney on his show at the Daily Wire.
Currently wretched, but still dangerously powerful liberals. One, Mark Carney, is one of the world's prime advocates of the insane inanities of net zero. He is a man who has planned in writing, not least in his best-selling book, Values, the complete destruction of the fossil fuel industry. Bye-bye, Alberta, if that's not bad enough. And it is. He's also simultaneously an advocate of the same post-national view of Canada defined by Trudeau Jr. and his moralistic minions. What are we, according to such good thinkers? Nothing. But if anything, the oppressive, patriarchal, white, supremacist, identityless, colonial settler state defined by the progressive ideologues in the think tanks and elite dining rooms in Eastern Canada and the protest encampments on the campuses of Canadian universities. None of this fills the MAGA crowd with admiration, in case it needs to be said. None of it bodes well either for the economy of Canada, doomed to replacement, according to Carney, by the hydrogen, solar, and wind power that either does not exist, that would be hydrogen, or that would doom Canadians to starve and freeze in the dark if it ever came to replace the reliable grid and transportation we all so desperately depend on when it's 40 bloody below.
See, you understand where Jordan Peterson is coming from in regards to Mark Carney. Has a bit of disdain towards him, as you can see. Also, like before I sign off, I'm going to show you a couple more videos here, but I want to show you the picture of Mark Carney's cabinet. This is Mark Carney's cabinet. I know you people are listening to me on audio. You won't see this picture, but you'd have to go to my YouTube channel to check it out. 86%, if not 90% of the people that are in his cabinet or in Justin Trudeau's cabinet. Same shit, different pile. Same group of people that have made decisions over the years will be the same people that make the same decisions if this guy was to get into position of power. These people have all voted numerous times for carbon tax, dozens of times over 9 years, have voted to raise it and have voted to keep it, and have voted against basically getting Justin Trudeau out of power every time in our House when Pierre Poilievre has put forth the motion to basically get him out of government. And the NDP have propped them up, and they have propped up Trudeau, of course. They all stuck together like birds of a feather, flocked together. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind and spread it around, everyone. Spread it around. So today, here is Pierre Poilievre was at literally this morning. I think he was in Ayton or Ajax today. And he was talking today, but he asked this question about Mark Carney. Listen to this very carefully.
Really been worrying me. After Justin Trudeau named Mark Carney his economic advisor, giving him massive power over public policy in Canada, Mr. Carney went over for meetings in Beijing where he just had secret talks with the deputy governor of the Chinese central bank. 2 weeks later, Brookfield got a $250 million loan. What did they talk about? What did Mr. Carney in his role as Trudeau's economic advisor offer China? Why would he be having secret meetings with top government-controlled bankers about getting a $250 million loan while he was supposed to be acting in Canada's interest as the Prime Minister's economic advisor? Why would he be collaborating with a hostile foreign regime that we have since learned executed 4 Canadians and took numerous Canadians hostage for a lengthy period of time? And given that Mr. Carney knows that he still owns massive financial interests in Brookfield, which owes a $250 million to a Chinese state-controlled bank, how do we know he's not going to act against our interests in favor of his financial interests? Why didn't he stand in front of this microphone and confess to Canadians that he owes the Chinese government that kind of money? Is this why he's covering up his financial interests? And given that China has murdered our people, taken our people hostage, how is he ever going to stand up to foreign interference when he is so financially compromised? We have never in our history had a weak, out-of-touch leader so terribly compromised and conflicted, whose interests go against our national interests. And I call on Mr. Carney right now to come before a microphone today and explain if this loan is still in place and if he still has those Brookfield assets that he had up until a few weeks ago. Because we cannot trust someone. Could you imagine, while you're supposed to be advising Canada's Prime Minister on the well-being of our economy, going to a foreign regime that had executed Canadian citizens, taken Canadians hostage, that it had already been public that they had interfered in multiple elections. They've done incursions into our northern waters. Mark Carney will never be able to protect our national interests because he has massive financial conflicts of interest overseas. What we need now is not to give the Liberals a 4th term with a weak and compromised leader. What we need is a Prime Minister who will put Canada first for a change.
That's right. Canada first for a change. The last video I'm going to show you is, again, Pierre Poilievre, who's running against Mark Carney. This is going to be the next majority leader, Prime Minister of Canada.
To the struggling single mother who worries how she will feed her kids, hope is on the way. To the 35-year-old still living in mom's basement but dreaming of owning his own place and starting a family. Change is on the way. To the seniors choosing between eating and heating. And to all those who wonder what happened to the country that they knew and love, change and hope are both on the way. A new Conservative government will restore Canada's promise. The promise that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home, on a safe street under a proud flag. To preserve that flag and uphold its promise, we must work together, fight together, and win together for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change.
Canada first for a change. I always say, let's go, Canada. Let's go. All right. Like I said, that was a little bit on Mark Carney. Few weeks coming up here before the election on April 28th. I'm going to be hammering out podcasts, social media stuff. So watch me on my Twitter feed, obviously. Follow me on that. Thanks for subscribing and liking my channel. And, of course, you can find me on all kinds of social media. And that's the quickest way to get a hold of me. Spread my stuff around. Spread my videos around. Spread the message around Canada. Tell 5 people. They can tell 5 people. And so on and so forth. And we're going to grow this. And, hey, like they kept saying the other day in the pleb when he was doing his live broadcast at Pierre's little rally in Toronto, is you make it too big to rig. You got to make it too big to rig. Get the numbers out there. This is going to be a make or break Canada. And this is going to be a changing election for us. So get out there and start putting your posts out there and get her going. Okay, until next time, everyone, thanks again for subscribing and liking my channel and spreading my channel. It helps with the algorithm very much. Till next time, next podcast, have yourself a great day.